everyone, welcome back to our channel. I'm Daisy.
And I'm Rudy, and today in Surface Interval, the Dive Monster Talk, we talk about a tragic dive accident which happened a couple of weeks ago here in waters of Dumaguete city, where a fellow young diver lost his life after he ascended from 30 meters pretty quick to the surface. So to get you a little bit the background story going.
So, we actually did our research, even talked to the sister of the diver, just to get information of what really happened. So, let's get to know Kuya Junril. First of all, he is the brother of two sisters with no parents. So, he is living, he is surviving for the two sisters. And even before the pandemic, he used to be a spearfisher as a main source of livelihood. And then, lucky enough, in 2016-17, he got a job in a local resort/dive shop. And from there, I think that's how he actually went to scuba diving.
According to the sisters, he worked there as a guide. We don't know if he actually was certified as a dive master. The sisters also don't know that. But with the pandemic, he lost his job. So he went back to spear fishing, and he obviously did that for creating income. He did not even have his own scuba equipment, so rented out his BCD regulator, probably had mask and fins, and did this for a while. On the sad day where the accident happened, he already did 2 dives, probably pretty deep, and showed some signs and symptoms of decompression sickness. Even his friends warned him about going on a 3rd dive.
Discouraged him, like, you shouldn't because you're not feeling well. But again, with the current situation of the pandemic, no work, he was so determined to actually catch fish and sell it so that he can have some money for his family. So on the 3rd dive, he went 30 meters down, and apparently there was a current and he panicked. So he shot to the surface using his inflator and just quickly went up, and he fell unconscious. He just went unconscious. Good thing that his dive buddies saw this and carefully went up and retrieved him, and thankfully got into the ambulance, called for emergency, and went to the local hospital.
Now, before we come to the hospital, for the non-diving friends who may watch that, is just a quick explanation what happens there. Scuba divers are limited by the depth and the water pressure that builds up, also the nitrogen in your body you are breathing, and when you go deep like that, which is basically close to the limit of recreational diving, especially on one tank, you do that on the 1st dive. The next dives you go shallower. If he goes on the 3rd dive again to 30 meters, shows that he ignored basically all rules in scuba diving, where even open water divers usually learn and get a little bit explained with a little bit of dive table here, where it tells you exactly how deep you can go for which time, even on repetitive dives. Now, I'm not getting into that, but what happens when you go down, all the gases in your body get compressed and settle down everywhere in your body tissues, from the fast tissues like your blood and body liquids to the slow tissues like bones. So when you come up, those bubbles are expanding. You can think about like a Coke bottle. When you open it, go pfft, suddenly you see the bubbles, or a can. Pfft. That's exactly what happens if a diver goes too fast up. The bubbles develop and can block your bloodstream, can also collect in your joints and limbs, or worst case scenario in your brain, and affect therefore the activity of your brain. If you go up that fast, the bubbles go pretty big and you can't off-gas or breathe them out, and this caused so-called decompression sickness or decompression illness. Add to that, if you inhale and go to 30 meters, the compressed nitrogen will cause a kind of nitrogen narcosis, which means more or less you're drunk. You're drunk. It's the same
Underwater.
thing. You can't think proper, or it's a little bit limited. You may act over the top. You may make decisions which are wrong, which were obviously wrong. And exactly this is what obviously, very obviously happened. And fellow Jungriel shot up to the surface, and because of all the combinations of wrongdoing, felt unconscious, got brought into the hospital and waited for some doctors that they treat him.
So when he got on the surface, he actually fell unconscious. In the ambulance, he fell unconscious, but then when he got to the emergency room, he had a few moments to actually wake up. And I quote said, "Napanik ko, ni kusog ang sulog sa lalom, nahadlok ko maanod sa layo. Akong gipislit na diretso ko sa taas," which means I panicked. The current got stronger at the bottom. I was afraid to be drifted away, so I pressed the button and went up immediately. That is the last thing he said before he fell again, unconsciousness, and then the doctor told the siblings that he's now in coma.
The treatment for decompression sickness is a decompression chamber. This is a tube, could be metal tube, could be glass or plexiglass tube, where you get rolled in, you get set under pressure again, you basically go on a dive again, so the bubbles can compress and you can slowly off-gas them. Now we don't have a chamber like that in Dumaguete, and the only chamber or two chambers available are in Cebu City to be precise. To be treated in a recompression chamber, which is the only treatment for a case like that,
Decompression sickness.
you need to be able to breathe by yourself.
And sadly, because he was in a coma, he even had some machine and that thing, the tube in his mouth, so he would actually breathe.
Now, still to raise the money to get to Cebu in any way, the sisters started a actually admirable campaign, no matter about what my fellow scuba diver colleagues would say about the cause of that accident. We're talking about two sisters trying to
Save the brother's life.
save
And that
the
was
brother's
very,
life, yeah.
very admirable. They started reaching out, even posting. That's how actually we saw it. We saw it in a diving group which we are in, and that's how we found out. And we already can see people, like a lot of people interacting, a lot of people trying to help, giving money, fundraising, you know, maybe even able to support for the treatment. But sadly, on November 8th at 8:50 a.m., he died at the local hospital.
He couldn't be transported to the other island because he was unconscious and he didn't breathe himself. No matter even the money was raised, or there would have been enough money, we don't know the numbers, but a lot of people participated and tried to help. Even small amounts may add up to a big mountain in a case like that, but sadly it was too late.
So there is no functional recompression chamber here in Dumaguete City.
But there's much more to the story, because I came here to that city back in 2005, I think, and there was a deadly dive accident on Apo Island, and a short time later the back then governor of Negros Oriental raised some funds to buy a second-hand recompression chamber. That was in 2007, and made the local media. And the chamber was not functioning back then.
It was just bought. They just bought the chamber.
And they needed more bits and pieces, but for whatever reason, which we don't want to speculate about it, but there were elections and two governors in between passed away a little bit too early. That chamber was just unfinished business, standing there and never operational until 2012.
Yes. So 2012, specifically the government tourism office actually allocated, they actually went in big media saying, hey, we're gonna allocate 3 million pesos to actually fix and put to operate the recompression chamber, you know, getting the facility, getting people to actually learn how to, because it's not easy to mix the gases and do the chamber. But until today, we haven't seen.
Yeah, 8 years later, and it's still the same governor, it's still the same people in the tourism office, but the chamber is also still the same, non-functional, non-operational.
And we don't even know if it's still there. Maybe.
If it's already scrap metal somewhere. The last picture of the chamber is back from 2012, and you can see it here. So that's the last existing picture. Very interesting also, because we made an article for a local website and mentioned that it was purchased 2007.
And I would find it funny, but apparently some people did not find this nice and deleted the post, the 2007.
Deleted the 2007 post from the local newspaper,
saying that they actually, you know,
bought the chamber. Interesting on top is that we by now have 2 not operational chambers, because ironically the Harold, the owner of Harold's Dive Center, where
Junril actually worked before, has one. It's a private one, but still has one.
It was a donation to him, but he's mainly in the States, so it's not operational also. And it is somehow, I'm not blaming Harold, it's a donation and it's his private money. And we also don't know if there would be the government chamber operational if Junril would have survived that accident, because it was pretty severe what happened. However,
he would have a chance to survive or to live.
He would have had this chance, and I think everybody should have a chance, especially when millions get allocated. It's not really a nice situation, especially considering that you can use a decompression chamber also for other treatments.
Not just diving accidents, but also for treatments of
some inner body tissues which are not healing very well. Sometimes it get used for actually even stroke and heart attacks. And there are many different ways a recompression chamber can be beneficial for the population of Negros Oriental, and not just the scuba divers or the diving community. Now, if there's something to be learned about that whole happening, and these are maybe words of wisdom, because people here don't live by the rules, you know, but stay within your limit. What Junril did for our non-diving friend was basically driving at night with full speed on a motorbike
without a helmet,
texting and being drunk.
That is like the land version of what he did underwater. So I really hope you found this video helpful, and we hope to create an impact to both the officials to actually start maybe discussing about the recompression chamber, and of course to make people aware of stay within your limits. So in the next video, we assure you that we will actually be talking something more positive, because we will be discussing about
making a high quality underwater video for your memories with a low budget.
As a beginner, and the best thing is we actually use this setup, not sponsored, and we promise you it is super easy and makes great videos and great photos.
You can see it everywhere on our channel, or right now here above. This is one of the cheap setup videos we produced, and it's all a matter of using a little bit the right advices, putting things together proper, and then you have great memories which will be forever.
So stay tuned for the next episode. I am Daisy.
I'm Rudy.
See you in the next videos.
Bye!